How's it going, fam? It's your boy Deck. Let's get right into this Witch Queen review because I have some stuff to talk about. But first, if you enjoy my channel, if you enjoy Destiny 2, or maybe even Elden Ring, if you just want to see me do more content, then make sure to like, share, and of course, subscribe to my channel, guys. We're going for 1k subs, let's see if we can get it. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into this video. Honestly, I did have some really high expectations for this expansion because throughout the last year, Bungie did their best to make sure we care about the story, the characters, and what is going on. However, we as the Destiny community have been burned before by Bungie, so I was really cautiously optimistic, you might say. While the previous expansion Beyond Light did have a lot of positives, it also had a lot of negatives. For example, Aramis being just another villain of the week type thing. Not only that, but during Beyond Light, sadly, Bungie introduced us to sunsetting in the Destiny 2 environment, and it's fair to say that most of the community was really unhappy about it. Adding on top of that, Bungie actually got us hyped for the pyramid ships, and we were thinking, okay, the raid is going to include the darkness in some way, we're going to get new info, maybe even a new enemy race. We were really hyper about it, and at the end of the day, well, we kind of got nothing. Most of the things that Bungie set up in the seasons prior were not the things that actually made an impression on us. For example, what did make an impression was seeing the Clovis Bray storyline, getting to know that Banshee 44 is actually Clovis Bray, or getting to see the Exo Stranger's story and getting to know her a bit better. Sadly, this also did extend to the gameplay of the story in some ways. For example, the most interesting parts about the expansion were actually after you were done with Aramis and you got to do the storyline of the Exo Stranger. The missions for the most part just flowed better. But I am happy to report that Witch Queen is actually most probably, not even most probably, most definitely the best Destiny 2 expansion we've ever seen. Since I harped on the story for a minute and some change, let's start there. This time all of the setup from the previous seasons actually paid off, and it paid off spectacularly. Starting off with Season of the Hunt, well, that set up Osiris as being really sus and introduced us to Aldrin Soph as the Guardian the Crow. During Season of the Lost, a lot of his plot threads really paid off for us, and he continues to be a part of the story, this time in the seasonal content. That's also when Osiris was reintroduced back into the story, and even from then we knew he was sus. You can go back and watch some videos about it and see that the community thought something is not right with him. Then during Season of the Chosen, we were introduced to Kaito, who basically took over most of the Cabal leadership. And now she is an active participant not only in our seasonal content, but she also did play a role in the main storyline of the Witch Queen. Then Season of the Splicer really set up Savathun as having a finger in everything because of all the Quaria things that we got to see. And that leads us right into Season of the Lost, and then of course, the Witch Queen. For a big part of the last year of Destiny 2, Savathun was on the tip of everybody's tongue, and I'm really happy to say that this expansion focused on her, showed us a lot of her story, showed us a lot of her character, and we actually got to fight and defeat her. This was not relegated to the raid or maybe even to some future season. There was no other big bad, it was Savathun for the whole story. The main plot thread naturally was how the hell did Savathun get the light, and I really don't want to spoil this for you guys because honestly I'm 90% sure that if you have not seen it yet, most likely you would be surprised. Again, as with most Destiny expansions, we did get a cliffhanger, but this time it was something really cool. Again, I wouldn't like to spoil it for you. What about the gameplay? What did you actually do to progress the story that I'm talking about? Something that ticks off a lot of players for Destiny expansions is the busy work that is usually included in the mainline quests. Stuff like complete a couple of public events to get some currency with which you can buy a couple of bounties that you must complete before you're able to progress the main quest. That used to really grind my gears, and I'm incredibly happy to report that there is absolutely none of it in the Witch Queen campaign. Instead, every single quest that you go on is actually scripted and it feels like an actual single player campaign. During the Vidoc before the expansion came out, Bungie did talk about how this will be their best single player content yet, and I really doubted they were going to pull it off, but by God did they do it. You do get to take part in a lot of really cool set pieces, you get to see an incredible environment in the Witch Queen's throne world, and since she is the Queen of Lies, you do get to actually solve a couple of puzzles. They are rudimentary, but they keep the whole roleplay alive. The best way I can describe it is that there finally are things that you can spoil for other players, not only when it comes to the story, but also when it comes to what they are actually going to do when they're completing the mainline quests. It all starts with a great callback to the Leviathan, and honestly, it doesn't really let up for the entire duration of the mainline quest. I did stream the entire thing, and when I look back at my VODs, it's about 9 hours worth of gameplay, which for a Destiny campaign expansion is actually quite a lot. Even Beyond Light, which was fairly long, took me about maybe 6-ish hours to complete, and it did include some busy work in the whole mainline quest thing. This time it's all action, it's all relevant, and it's all really good. And one of the main reasons why the gameplay of the storyline feels so good is because for the most part it takes place on Savathûn's throne world and nowhere else. It's a very inspired environment. It includes a swamp area and a castle area. I think the castle is the better area because it has a lot more verticality, a lot of hidden nooks and crannies, and a lot of secrets that you can uncover. Not only that, but the architecture is actually very much inspired by Lord of the Rings. They haven't officially said it, but come on, there's eyes that follow you on the walls, and there's even a big eye before you go to the main battle that just watches you. While you're traversing it, you definitely feel like a space age Aragorn. The locales are all different when you're going through the mainline quest. You could be playing in a very much open area, you could be playing inside of a dungeon, inside of a castle, something of this nature, or in a very claustrophobic closed off space. Of course, as this is Destiny 2, you already know the gunplay is simply spectacular. The new Lucent Brood is pretty much the hive, but they get some overshield from these light moths. At the end of the day, these are regular enemies, so I'm happy they didn't change a whole lot about them, but what they added and was pulled off incredibly well were these new Lightbearer Hive Guardians. What is impressive about them is that they actually do feel like they're Hive Guardians. They throw grenades at you, they throw supers at you. When one is on the screen, everything becomes incredibly hectic, and if you don't kill it quick with a couple of galley shots, you're in a world of hurt. God forbid if you forget to actually kill their ghost, because if you do, they're going to get resurrected, just like a regular guardian would be. For all intents and purposes, they're basically mini-bosses, but mini-bosses that are pulled off really well. When one is on the screen, you better prioritize it, otherwise your ghost will be doing a lot of work resurrecting you. They also introduce us to weapon crafting, with the first weapon that we craft being the new weapon type, the glaive. It's definitely not overpowered or overtuned, but it sits in its own place and it feels incredibly good to wield. And this actually leads me into a very important point that might be a little bit controversial, but we actually got Sunsetting 2.0. This time it was done right. What do I mean by this? Well, basically every new weapon has an extra perk on top of everything that it has. So not only do you get to customize it, but it also has another stat bonus on top of everything. And it's not just a stat bonus when it comes to range or stability or something of this nature. Instead, it's a passive effect which is really useful. For example, all of the new seasonal weapons come with this perk called Land Tank that gives you more resilience and basically makes you a land tank because you're harder to kill. And all of the seasonal and expansion weapons do get this extra perk, and it's always a perk which fits their theme. For example, all of the new Omolon weapons come with the perk which gives them more reload speed when you're on the top half of the magazine, which does fit their design language incredibly well. And this is basically why this is Sunsetting 2.0 for all intents and purposes. Not only do all the new guns have an extra perk, but on top of that, after you play with them for a while, you get to choose their perks via the crafting system, which is all the Destiny community has ever wanted. Yes, I will use my Adept Hung Jury with rapid hit and explosive rounds until there's a weapon which can roll the same perks, but I can customize further. After that happens, why would I ever use that old gun? In my opinion, this is how Sunsetting should have been handled from the start. Basically, give us more options which are better instead of just removing all of our great options from before. You can rest assured, a lot of people wouldn't even notice or register this as Sunsetting, but that's definitely what it is. But this time the beautiful people from Bungie pulled it off in a way which will make nobody mad. Or if you are mad about it, there's something wrong with you. Another big change that came with the expansion was the addition of Void 3.0. Basically a rework of all the Void subclasses. Now, instead of there being 3 rigid skill trees that you cannot make changes on, instead it was brought to the Stasis subclass system. Now, if you want, you can basically run the Attunement of Chaos and the Attunement of Hunger together with the Roaming Super, if that's what you want to go for. Overall, this change to the system gives us a lot more flexibility in how we want to run our builds, and I am sure a lot of people will come up with a lot of crazy stuff. And while when Stasis came out it basically broke PvP, it doesn't seem that Void 3.0 had the same effect, which is really good. The flexibility of the new system basically provides us with all the great stuff from Destiny 1 and all the great stuff from Destiny 2, all in a tight little package. And I have already talked about way too much, but I still haven't even covered the new season, which we have gotten only week 1 of, but it's starting off really strong. or the new Legendary campaign, which is basically, if you're a Halo fan, the Legendary campaign of old, but in Destiny form. Furthermore, the exotic quests that we have access to in week 1 are really good. The new Hive grenade launcher basically gives us the most burst we've ever seen in PvE, and the quest storyline is actually really fun and really good. And while this is not a scripted review, instead I'm basically freestyling this audio recording right now, while I have been doing it, I could not think of anything bad about the Witch Queen. Everything we have gotten has been really good. Actually, the story is kind of incredible. The fact that there is no busy work in the mainline quest is something that I'm really happy about. The new guns, actually, I really like using. The exotic quests are interesting, and overall I have zero complaints. And while I don't respect Bungie's monetization practices when it comes to D2, and that is something that I'm working on a video for, make sure to subscribe to my channel to see it, I cannot fault them for anything in this expansion. If you can pay the price of admission, I would say Destiny 2 The Witch Queen is very much worth it. If I did give any numerical score for it, it's at least a 9 out of 10 for any Destiny 2 fan. As for the people who are not Destiny fans but have been thinking about getting into the franchise, I would say that the Witch Queen is pretty much your best bet. The story is extremely interesting, and if you get hooked on it, I am sure you'll go down the Destiny lore rabbit hole on YouTube. The gunplay is exciting, as it is Bungie at the end of the day, and there's heaps of content to sink your teeth into. But that about wraps it up. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, you guys. I really appreciate all of the support the past couple of videos have received, and I'll make sure to keep this going. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time, fam.